Alright, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about The Life of Pi. It's a pretty cool movie. Sadly, I just saw it yesterday. I'm sure there's a billion movie reviews, so I'm going to really just focus on the philosophical side of the movie, but I'm going to give like maybe a 20-second little recap. So basically, we follow the life of a guy named Piscine, who is an Indian guy, but he's named after like a French river, I believe. Um, but since English is taught in India, uh, piscine quickly became pissing, and he was kind of mocked for it and ridiculed. But after he just happened to memorize the digits of pi out to like a really long decimal place, piscine turned into pi, which is a big relief, much like pissing would be, or unlike pissing was uh, to be called. So basically, his family gets in a financial situation where they need to leave India, and they ran a zoo, so they're transporting all their animals to Canada, I believe, and they're going to sell them off and kind of start a new life there, um, where his dad has connections, etc. Sadly, along the way, their ship, much like the Titanic, kind of goes under due to some sort of heavy storm, and now he's stranded on a lifeboat where his entire rest of the family went down with the ship, but he escaped because he was like a storm watcher. He wanted to go see it. Hey, storm, let's go see it. Let's be fun. Tried to get his brother to go with him. Robbie decided not to go. And so he ends up on top of the ship, kind of ahead of the game, and he starts to notice the ship go under. And yeah, he's the only one who made it out. He eventually gets on a lifeboat. Um, Ironically kind of by himself, because like they got him on the boat and I don't know, they got off the boat. This is something weird, and like an animal, because the animals are on the boat, some of them got free, and had one of them like jumped on the lifeboat, trying to escape, and it just like made it released the flies, I guess you would say, right, the ropes. So they just like slid down really quickly, and it was just him and a few animals that were on the boat that happened to be able to hop on. And here we have this story, and eventually a tiger gets on the boat, and a zebra, and a hyena, and a orangutan, and himself. It's really interesting movie. Um, but I'm gonna leave it right there. That's the setup for the movie. That's where you're at, and then the movie concludes with him safely arriving, I believe, in a place in Mexico and getting interviewed about what his experience. And these insurance company has sent people to investigate the sinking and why it sank. For some reason, he doesn't say that a storm sank the ship. I don't know why. He's like an explosion or something. Maybe he thought the storm caused an explosion. I don't know. But anyway, he tells his life story about being on the ship with a orangutan and a tiger. The people found it kind of ludicrous that he would survive with like a tiger, and he had to like eventually train the tiger so that to respect his space and etc. so that he could live on that boat. Um, and so they asked him for a more believable story, so he gives him another one where he said other people were on the boat with him and not a tiger, and he tells them about the human struggle on the boat, fighting for food and resources, and people end up killing each other and eating each other, etc. And they liked that story better, so that was easier to tell, more believable. Um, so they went on with that. And here's where I want to kind of stop talking about the movie itself and get into the philosophical component. The philosophy behind the movie, and I didn't really connect this all right away. I mean, it left that taste in my mouth, like, well, which story is correct, right? Because it's just kind of leaving it open. But that was actually thematic throughout the entire movie, and I kind of read a little bit on Wikipedia about it after I watched it, and like, yeah, that really was the point. Was like, he believed in all the different religions, Christianity, Islam, and Hindu. Um, and again, the same theme is which story is correct. Because they're all telling different stories, and then his dad's telling and it also is very interesting because it includes atheism as just another story, or rationalism, or however you want to look at it. Like his dad is like, hey, you need to be rational, you need to use facts to determine things, but he determines that, but he puts that just in the list as another story. You know, another story you can tell yourself to decide whatever you want to believe. And then the conclusion, or the finale of the philosophy is this: is that simply pick the story which adds to your life the most. So if you think being a Christian enriches your life the most, then be a Christian. If you think being an atheist enriches your life more than being an atheist. Like, some people can't be an atheist because they're like, well, without God, the life has no meaning, and they spiral into depression, and they get really sad, even if that seems to be the most plausible. And then, of course, to The Life of Pi, that movie, or the author would say to them, like, hey, well, then don't be an atheist, because that's not enriching your life. You know, be a theist, right? Or if there's a theist who is constantly at war with theism, you know, he might tell that person, be an atheist, or be a Buddhist, or be a Hindu, or whatever, you know? So just pick whatever story you want that enriches your life the most, because that's really perhaps more important than the truth of the story. Um, it's a very interesting argument, and in fact, I actually had thought of that argument in a different context once. I'm going to give you that because it's very much related. It wasn't about like the origin of the universe or the existence of God or anything like that, but the existence of free will. Like, should we as individuals believe that we have the ability to choose? It's really hard. Scientifically, it's not very grounded. Like, everything around us seems very deterministic. Even when you include quantum randomness, randomness and free will are really not the same thing. And but the cool thing about quantum physics is it does open the field of like, hey, there's just a bunch of stuff we don't understand that's going on, so maybe there is something like choice. Um, that said, science doesn't directly tell us whether there's free will or not. It just it just puts a question mark on it. So let's say that people think that the evidence leans more towards there's not free will, which is pretty in line with our experience, like with everything we interact with, whether we're playing a pool or golf or anything we do. It really seems that everything is just deterministic at the end of the day. So, with that said, that of course would lead us to be deterministic. However, there's also the fact that there's insufficient evidence to know one way or the other which story to pick, which one's more believable, which one's more probable. Um, with that said, I got a discussion with my brother about it, and the idea I proposed was this: that suppose that we had free will, but that due to our evidence around us, that we decided that um, it was less likely for us to have free will, or that there's really no scientific support for free will. You know, so it seemed more plausible for us to be deterministic. And then I thought to myself, well, one, we don't know definitively for sure, but how sad is it that if we're a person with free will, and we come to the conclusion that we don't have free will, that we kind of, in a sense, belittle ourselves and make ourselves less. Like, we turn ourselves into some weird, like, robot-like things, deterministic machines, you might say. Right? So, that would be like the worst case scenario, that you are really some creature that has, like, this consciousness and can choose and can make your own path, so to speak, but that we convince ourselves that we're not, and therefore, you know, value ourselves and others totally differently, even though we had this property. Um, so that's the first case scenario. Um, second case scenario. I guess there's three cases. Second case would be you'd be your person with free will who believes your free will, which is the best case. And then the third case is, let's start with the fact that we don't have free will, right? I guess there's four cases, whatever. And if you don't have free will and you believe you have free will, well, no harm done, because, right, who the hell cares if some robot believes he has free will, whether or not he does? Like, some people might just want to believe for the sake of truth, one way or the other. But like as far as how it impacts your life, it really doesn't detract from you. And as far as like the moral or the the relevance of it all, I mean, does anything really become relevant if you're just a deterministic machine? So, if a deterministic machine believes in free will, who cares, right? So, if you believe in free will in a deterministic machine, who cares? And if you believe in free will and you're not a deterministic machine, well, freaking great, because now you're not downplaying yourself and you are giving yourself, living your life to the max. So it seems that the argument is, given that there's no definitive evidence one way or the other about free will, that it is much more logical to just believe in free will regardless, because it enriches your life, it doesn't contradict with any known facts about the universe, and yeah, it seems with those two combinations that you might as well just accept it. Now, what the movie The Life of Pi does is it takes that exact same argument and applies it to God. It says, hey, if God enriches your life, and there's no direct scientific evidence to disregard it, and you could even argue even if there was, but let's just go with this statement, which I think more people are more comfortable with. If there's no direct contradiction and it enriches your life, why not believe in God, right? So if it makes your day go better, makes you go in the morning, want to be more productive and promote yourself and promote others and etc. You know, if you have anger problems, you can work on them. If you have depression, you can work on that. If it helps you get through these things and embolden you, encourage you to volunteer, etc., then why not believe in God if it's going to enrich your life? There doesn't seem to be any downside, right? At the end of the day, it's just a story, and the usefulness of the story is all determined by how it impacts you. So that's the basic argument. I think it's interesting. And like I said, the even bolder argument is to say, even if science directly proves or discredits, obviously it can't prove anything, but discredits, makes it not believable based upon their assumptions, um, is that maybe you should just believe it anyway because it gives you hope or makes life more enjoyable. So that's kind of the point. The moral story of the Life of Pi is pick the story that works best for you, and it's an interesting contrast to the viewpoint of just pick the story that is most likely to be true or that we can demonstrate to be true. You know, it's really asking what is your priorities in life, what do you value um, the most. You know, do you value your own personal happiness and that of those around you, or do you value just knowing the truth? Right? Some people do want to seek truth for truth's sake. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna leave you with that, and the final thought, the final recap is that if there is no evidence one way or the other, why not pick the view that supports or enables you the most, that makes your life the most enjoyable, right? And you've heard the other arguments, so it's a very interesting point for the Life of Pi, and maybe I'll redo this video at some point to stop making it 14 minutes, because I suck at making videos. Gosh darn it. I'm going to try and get it down to 5 next time so people actually watch it. Alright, well, that's a wrap, and post your thoughts or comments or just think about it for yourself, because I found it, a pretty interesting movie, and yeah, I love thinking about this kind of stuff anyway. So yeah, definitely a good movie. Go see it if you haven't. Sorry if you have not seen it because I just kind of put a lot of spoilers in there, but oh well. Have a great day. Peace.